Hello and very warm welcome at Amish Shackle 5858. I am Amish Shackle. Following news have been reported by American, European, Asian, African, Australian news channels and the news agencies. So please, let's go to the headlines.
Most trusted, now on Disney Plus every night.
Tonight, there is breaking news right now. The tornado watch as we come on and the severe storms. The air traffic control tower evacuated. Just as millions travel for Thanksgiving tonight, these storms moving from the south, the Ohio Valley, into the northeast now. Air traffic controllers forced to evacuate in Atlanta over tornado concerns for a time. On the highways tonight, the fiery crash on I-95. And now a second storm right after Thanksgiving. Dangerous driving, winter storm warnings already up tonight. Ginger Z is standing by live with the forecast. Tonight, the FBI now requesting interviews with 6 Democratic lawmakers who told military members they do not have to follow illegal orders. The Pentagon threatening to court-martial Senator and retired astronaut Mark Kelly. The search tonight for a high school football coach who went missing right in the middle of an undefeated season. And tonight, the dark turn in this case. Authorities are now calling him a fugitive. The emergency playing out on the water, the family celebrating his 70th birthday when the boat capsizes off Florida. A 90-year-old man among those on the boat. Others had to hold him up for 20 hours. Tonight, the war in Ukraine, new Russian attacks on Kyiv. President Trump tonight and what he's now saying about a peace plan. Ian Panel standing by in Kyiv for us. Back in the U.S., surveillance showing a house leveled by a gas explosion. That blast felt miles away. Frightening moments for one of Selena Gomez's family members, forced to hide from intruders breaking in. Tonight, what our reporter learned after an offer he made 7 years ago, the email that arrived and what doctors are convinced he can now do. Also tonight, the stunning moment, the family that thought their loved one was dead. She began knocking from inside the coffin. Tonight here, remembering the former child actor from Leave It to Beaver. From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this.
Well, President Trump sounding off on Chicago following a string of violent crimes, including the 26-year-old woman set on fire on a train last week.
Burned this beautiful woman riding in a train. A man was arrested 72 times. We could make Chicago a safe city in a period of 4 weeks. And if you look at the crime that's taken place in Chicago in the last 2 weeks, just take a look. It's on the front page of every newspaper. It's out of control.
Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson acknowledged the city's shortfalls following a separate fatal shooting incident on Friday after the city's Christmas tree lighting. Watch.
What we put in place did not do enough to prevent what we were concerned about from actually manifesting.
Let's bring in Chicago Alderman Raymond Lopez. Raymond, that acknowledgement by Mayor Johnson is a different sort of tag. We haven't heard that from him before, but why is he doing that now, and what's your reaction?
Well, Griff, good morning. I think the reason that the mayor's pivoting now is that he understands that Chicagoans are fed up with his failures, and he knows that Election Day is less than 8 months from today. You know, he can say and try to pivot all he wants, but all of these failures come right back to his doorstep. The blood is on his hands for what we've seen happen this weekend, because when it came to the teen takeover and the 300 individuals that descended on downtown, we had the opportunity to institute a snap curfew that would have allowed the police to better manage that. He vetoed that ordinance because he didn't want to profile black children. When it comes to the CTA and the burning of that poor woman, he has handcuffed not only our Chicago police, but transit police as well, not allowing them to use all of the tools as well as follow these individuals when they are on the trains causing chaos. This falls at his feet squarely, and he knows that Chicagoans have had enough.
And you know, Raymond, just to remind our viewers, this individual you're talking about, Lawrence Reed, has such a criminal history going back to 1993, 72 arrests, 8 of them felony convictions, 7 misdemeanor convictions. You just wonder, what in the world is that individual doing out?
Well, this is the gruesome effect of liberal, socialist, quasi-communist policies here in the city of Chicago, where that revolving door of justice and sympathy were intertwined, allowing individuals out, thanks to people like Kim Foxx, thanks to the policies and politics of people like Brendan Johnson, and those of the allies of the governor, J.B. Pritzker, who created the Safety Act, which is a misnomer. We have to do better, and I think what we've seen is more compassion and empathy from Donald Trump wanting to correct this than we've gotten from our own mayor or our own other elected officials here who want to pretend this is a manufactured crisis. It is a manufactured crisis, a crisis they created by all of their bad policies and all of their criminal enablement that has gone on for the past 5 years.
Well, and Raymond, it seems that President Trump is so compelled to get involved because of the violent crime in that great city. The year to date, you're looking at 385 murders, nearly 1,400 shootings, more than 5,000 robberies, ridiculous amount of felony theft. How does Mayor Johnson run in that election on this sort of record in his watch?
Well, Brendan Johnson's going to run on a record that said, don't believe your lying eyes. Don't believe what you see and hear going on around you. Forget that those are just property crimes. It doesn't really impact you. It's a big business and all of that. But what we know is this. When we had the chance to bring in the National Guard before the mayor and the governor said, no, we don't need it, and we had 57 people shot, 9 people killed. I believe that was Labor Day weekend. We've had multiple...
On this Tuesday night, banned. Why one of Canada's most decorated Olympians is not being allowed to compete for 2 years.
We treat athletes quite strictly.
He built a career centered on his Indigenous ancestry, but author Thomas King now admits he's not Indigenous at all. How the truth was revealed. Amplifying anger in Alberta.
We can't just sit back and trust a government that we've trusted for 7 years.
The growing campaigns to recall more than a dozen UCP MLAs. Plus, she was a curling rock star, accomplished broadcaster, and she touched the lives of everyone who knew her. Remembering Colleen Jones. Good evening and thanks for joining us. One of Canada's most decorated Olympians has been handed a 2-year ban from competition by the International Testing Agency. Penny Oleksiak, who has won 7 Olympic medals for swimming, has accepted the suspension. She has not tested positive for any banned substance, but has failed to follow the strict rules of the anti-doping code, which require submitting a certain number of filings and tests within a 12-month period. Eric Sorensen explains what it means for Oleksiak and for Canada's national swim team.
She won an Olympic gold medal at the age of 16. Now, at 25, Penny Oleksiak's swimming future is at best uncertain. The 7-time Olympic medalist has been suspended by the International Testing Agency for violating obligations to provide her whereabouts 3 times. The agency states the purpose is to allow anti-doping organizations to locate athletes for unannounced out-of-competition testing. She committed 3 whereabouts failures within a 12-month period. Penelope Oleksiak has accepted a 2-year period of ineligibility. A spokesperson for Oleksiak confirmed the suspension, stating, "This matter is not related to drug use. Penny is and has always been a clean athlete. She remains committed to her goals and looks forward to competing again once her suspension is complete."
I like to just catch my breath.
Oleksiak quickly became one of Canada's most popular athletes after her stunning Olympic performances. The whereabouts policy is to ensure fairness for all athletes, says this expert who has investigated doping in sports.
They're absolutely essential that you have competition testing so that athletes can plan ahead knowing that they're going to be tested.
But it is an onerous process to have one's whereabouts under constant monitoring.
It's tricky because we treat athletes quite strictly in this regard in society.
And, says Angela Schneider, the urine tests themselves are highly invasive.
Athletes' rights to privacy are given up for this, and they do it because they want to try to help to maintain a level playing field.
The ban from competition will be in place until July 2027, a big setback for an athlete in her prime.
It is a big deal. It takes her out of competition. She can't train under the national team while she's under suspension, so she'll have to sort of do her own work.
It's 11 o'clock. I'm Sophie Ridge, and this is a Budget Day special on Sky News. After weeks and weeks of leaks, build-up and speculation, the Chancellor will deliver her second budget this lunchtime. She'll acknowledge that people are angry at unfairness in the British economy.
Today, I'm going to take the fair and the necessary choices to deliver on our promise of change. I'm not going to return Britain back to austerity.
The cost of living, pensions, a mansion tax, and an end to the two-child benefit cap. A significant moment for the country's finances. Will you be better or worse off? Well, in the next few minutes, we'll see the Chancellor on the steps at number 11 Downing Street before she heads to Parliament to deliver the budget. And of course, on the way there, she might catch sight of the farmers who've descended on Westminster in their ongoing protest about inheritance tax. Well, I'll be joined by our political editor, Beth Rigby, and our economics and data editor, Ed Conway, with their expert analysis. All the build-up and the full reaction to what could prove to be a defining budget for the country's prosperity and the government between now and 5. Hello, good morning from Westminster. Now, it feels like we've been talking about it.
BBC TV and ABC iView.
A surprise jump in inflation dashes hopes of a December rate cut. A man dies in wild storms wreaking havoc in New South Wales while extreme heat keeps firefighters on alert. The New South Wales Premier under scrutiny over allegations of undeclared donations.
$27,000.
And historic treasures from Roman coins to Victoria Cross medals go under the hammer in Sydney. Hello and welcome to ABC News. I'm Joe O'Brien. New data has revealed a spike in inflation, mostly fueled by power prices, dashing hopes.
Headline news this hour. Taiwan unveils a $40 billion hike in defense spending as President William Lai stresses the ultimate goal of establishing defense capabilities in the face of what it deems as a rising threat from China. He adds that the military aims to have a high level of readiness by 2027 to deter China. The budget will be allocated over 8 years, from 2026 to 2033, covering missiles and drones, as well as a new air defense system. China warns it would, quote, crush any foreign interference over Taiwan after Tokyo announced plans to deploy missiles on the Japanese island near Taiwan. Beijing has called the move extremely dangerous and emphasized that they are determined to defend their national sovereignty and territorial integrity. Tokyo earlier this week says that sending weapons to a military base in Yunaguni Island can help lower the chance of an armed attack on Japan. This is part of an escalating dispute between China and Japan, following Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's remarks suggesting that Tokyo may intervene in the event of a Chinese attack on Taiwan. The death toll from days of widespread flooding in Thailand's south climbs to 33. The country has deployed its military for aid and rescue efforts, with authorities declaring the province of Songkhla in the south a disaster zone. Floodwaters have risen to as high as 3 meters in some areas, submerging cars, homes and shops. Officials say more than 2 million people are affected, with many cut off and unable to get help. And ahead next hour, East Asia Tonight, Oteli Edwards is here to tell us what we can expect.
Thanks, Paul. Tonight, we are tracking the stories driving tensions across the region. Even as Taipei moves to boost its defense budget, President Lai warns the real threat isn't China's military might, but a loss of confidence at home. And in the US-China trade standoff, we unpack the ripple effects over soybeans, TikTok, and those all-important rare earths.
Plus, China doubling down on science and tech self-reliance. We look at how this push is propelling its space sector to greater heights. All on East Asia tonight, right here on CNA.
Africa News. The news. Fritz Alphonse Jean, a member of Haiti Transitional Presidential Council, has denied supporting gangs on Tuesday after the U.S. imposed visa restrictions on him. The U.S. did not name the person it sanctioned in Monday's announcement, but Jean confirmed it was him as he rejected the accusations of supporting gangs. For some months now, several members of the council have observed the failure of Prime Minister Didier Fils-Aimé's government on the issues of security, governance, and elections. The U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau last week warned on social media that there were calls for open war against the central government in Haiti. Threats are coming from the American embassy, which is coming from the Canadian embassy, where they said if we don't withdraw our support for replacing the Prime Minister, they will cut off our visas and the visas of our families. Haiti is due to hold elections by February 7, when the 9-member Transitional Presidential Council is supposed to step down. Haiti's Prime Minister and the Transitional Presidential Council have been under pressure to hold elections before the council's mandate expires, but gang violence has made the February deadline impossible to meet, according to analysts.
Mr. Speaker, British Prime Minister Keir Starmer told Parliament he had raised the question of Sudan during the G20 summit in South Africa this weekend. Speaking to MPs on Tuesday, Starmer said ensuring the circulation of humanitarian aid in Sudan was a priority.
I took the opportunity in South Africa to raise the ongoing and utterly horrifying situation in Sudan. We are working with our partners to break restrictions on humanitarian aid and demand accountability. We must rally global pressure to stop the slaughter, achieve a sustained ceasefire, and ultimately to deliver a transition to civilian rule.
The United Kingdom is under particular pressure to stop the bloodshed in Sudan as the official penholder for the country within the UN Security Council. The British government is also facing accusations of UK military equipment being used by the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces.
China in South Africa launched an initiative to support modernization in Africa. The initiative was launched on the sidelines of the G20 summit. It builds on commitments made at the 2024 Forum on China-African Cooperation Beijing Summit, where China announced 10 partnership actions to support Africa's modernization.
The initiative on cooperation supporting modernization in Africa was jointly drafted by China and Africa.
Thank you for watching Amish Shakil 5858. I am Amish Shakil. I hope you will visit again. Have a good life. Bye-bye.